Progression, man. Progression. My family. You know what I mean? Like I just yeah, that's it. It's not hard. I mean, some mornings are. I'm not a morning person, so some mornings are other. But yeah, it's growing and being happy and being content, and that's really it. You know, it doesn't. I don't need really a drive. You know, but it's to keep going, do what you got to do, and finding that happy life. Just that's what I think keeps me going. My name is Joe Fedak, and I was in the United States Air Force, and I was a staff sergeant. I was in college, did a year as soon as I got out of high school, and just wanted to do more. Started looking at it, looked at all the branches of service, and the Air Force just made sense, and it gave me the opportunity to travel, so that was very appealing to me, and just get out there and see the world a little bit. It was tough. I mean, it was tough. You go in, you don't know if you want to be there. Do I want to do this? The getting up, the getting screamed at, and it's tough. It's tough on anybody. Some people harder than others. I wouldn't say it was super difficult for me, but it was definitely a change of life, going from a life of almost no discipline to a hyper level of discipline in the Air Force. It was, yeah, mentally it'll beat you up a little bit. You're just waiting for that day to be done, counting down the days. I got 7 more weeks, 6 more weeks. So you're just counting down the days and just trying to get through it, really. My training was pretty basic from basic training in boot camp. Air Force doesn't have the hardest boot camp as far as the services go, which everyone basically knows, but it was still tough. It's getting that discipline instilled to you, and when you're going to normal life and then you go into something like boot camp, it's a shock. That's the point of it. You got a lot of people screaming at you and you're getting yelled at, and it's kind of all the things you'll see in the movies as far as boot camp goes, pretty similar to that. So it's a culture shock for sure. My first duty station for service was RAF Lakenheath in England. I was there for a couple years. Then I went to Missouri for a year. Then I went to Germany for Korea for a year. And then I went to Germany for 4 years and finished up in Charleston, South Carolina, where I did a few years. And then deployments, flyaways to Iraq, Afghanistan, UAE, and Africa as well. I would have to say favorite memory was working in the training section with my guys who are still like my closest friends. We were dubbed the wrecking crew because we seemed to always mess things up. So they kind of gave that as a dig, and we just ran with it. But we worked a training section because of our background and our amount of deployments. We would train people before they went and deployed, whether they were security forces members, whether they were just base populace, regular type Air Force guys. We would train them, and I would say my fondest memories is working with all those guys. I have probably a dozen, lifelong friends, and then those 4 guys that I had mentioned. I mean, they were groomsmen in my wedding. We take trips with just the guys, and then we take trips with the wives, the kids, all that stuff. So yeah, I've had a lot of friends that I've been friends with since the day one in the military.
So the term we like to use, Joe, he was a wild card back in the day. He still got a little wild card in him. He's the most wildest out of the crew here, but now we call him domesticated Joe. He's transitioned to that family lifestyle with his lovely wife Ashley, and he's a totally different person that I knew from 2008 and beyond. So he has, I would say, as a brother to him, he has grown immensely from the years that I've known him. We were young kids back in Germany, and now we're adults, and he's grown tremendously. Especially proud of him getting back in college, history major, and just a very physiological and opinionated person, and he can get deep real quick, and that's one of the things I love about Joe. I was shocked, I'll be honest, just knowing Joe. And I was like, I don't know if he told much about me. I think out of the crew, I've been in college, and that's been a passion of mine for a very long time. And to hear out of our entire crew that he was the one that was going to step into that realm and start his college journey, I was I was extremely excited and proud to hear that. And he's come to me a lot during this adventure and this experience, and I'm just extremely proud of him. He took that step forward and continued on with it. He's been in it for several years, and when he talks about it, there's a passion for it, and he's excited about it. So yeah.
I was a cop for a couple years in Utah, and then I had to come home because my dad had gotten sick. So I came home to New York, and then I ended up working for a beer distributor for a couple years, which was a lot of fun because I get to deal with all the bars in Brooklyn and Queens. And then I met my now wife, and that is the beer game's a young man's game. It's late nights, and it's just a lot. Your days are starting late nights. So met my wife, and then a few years into dating her, we decided to move in together. I was moving to New Jersey, and that's what landed me back here. I always wanted to get into history, and then with the access to the GI Bill, I would have been a fool not to come back to school and take advantage of that. So moving to Jersey and kind of, I guess, growing up now that you're, serious relationship, everything went on, and that's what landed me coming back to school. So yeah, I did a couple things.
Majority of the problems is life has changed, and that's one big problem. Also to counter out, it's a difference too, and a different pace from what of what it is like to be in the military. So when you're in the military, your day is structured. You know what you have to do. You get up, train, do your job or military occupational specialty, and you do that from day into day out, and you whatever new orders you may have. So there's a structure. So you know what you're doing every single day. When you come back and just say that it's been you have a 4-year contract, and maybe you were abroad, you were in another state, things have changed. Your neighborhood may have changed. Maybe the corner store is not there. Maybe if someone died, in the block that you may have known. Your friends have moved on from what They could have gone to college, graduated, have gotten married, had kids, moved on, and so then you come back and you just have to basically reintegrate into society again, and then you have to find that start of, okay, well, people, everyone else around me has, I guess, their life together. So, I was in the military, I left, I came back, but now I have to get my life together somehow because everyone has moved on, and could be that feeling of I haven't moved on yet, and that's a difficult to transition, especially everything that you once know, because family members may have passed or moved, or your family has grown or decreased, whatever it may be. Everything changes, and then it's coming back and having to deal with all those changes too, because maybe when you left, this was your daily habits, but now it's not that anymore, and you're used to being with people every day who understand you. That's the other thing too, who get you, understand you, and then maybe you come back and your friends may have seen a different change, or you can't relate to what they're doing anymore.
Yes, I think it's the transition from military to civilian, even if you're only doing, say, a 4-year bid or whatever it is, it's very different. It's very different, and it is challenging. Some harder than others, but you have to think about it. You're told what to wear, what to do. It's so structured that it's like you almost come out and there's a lost feeling to it. You're like, what am I supposed to do now? And some people have a harder transition than others. It wasn't super difficult for me, but there are transition periods, and there are things that you have to adjust your kind of life to, and you miss the camaraderie. It's almost tough being a civilian, and a lot of people can't handle it well. So a lot of people even go back to the military. After being out a couple of years, they're just saying, like, I can't deal with civilian life, and they go back because they need it. They need the purpose. They need all of it. Yeah.
It does happen because you're not technically you're never stationed around where you live, so you're now introduced into different environments. Now you have roles as either in a leadership position, so you do change to a different level, but it's taking that change or that level of the military and then acclimating that into everyday life. And that's the hard part, because many people don't understand what you did, what you have done. They think, oh, okay, I did training, and then I had a job, and then I didn't do anything for the rest of the day. It's not really that way. It's set up like we were both discussing. Your job is to do X, Y, and Z all the time. But then you come back, you have that set in you, to be, punctual on time. You're well trained, you're ready to lead, you're ready to go. But now it's kind of using those skills that you have in everyday life to, help you grow and develop in everyday life. And sometimes that's where it could get a little diffused or lost.
It's difficult. School, especially, I'd come back, I hadn't been in school for 16 years, and then I came back in January of 2020, and then 6 weeks later, COVID happens. So it's a hard transition. I had a tough time with the remote learning. I hated it. I think like learning is something that you should be using all 5 of your senses, like smelling the room and you're hearing everything. I didn't do well there. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It was intimidating at first. Like you're a little older and you're coming in and there's a younger generation, and it was a intimidating thing. But I think as far as I was proven wrong, I guess you could say. Like it wasn't. Yeah, it was great. Everyone I've met is nice, and it's seeing people doing things with their lives I enjoy. So I do enjoy being back in school. It's hard. I'm not a school person, but it's hard to get done. But I'm enjoying it. I always liked history. I do have the typical story of, my high school history teacher is my favorite teacher, kind of puts in there. But I think with me and all the places that I've been, whether it be in Europe or the United States or, any corner of this planet, I saw where history happened. If it's you're teaching a World War II class and all that stuff, I've seen Auschwitz. I've been to Dachau. The same way I'm speaking with the learning, right? You should all 5 senses. When you visit a place, when you visit a Gettysburg, when you're there, I think these places hold an energy to them. And when you're teaching about it, you could teach from that first person perspective of like, I've seen this part of the world, and I've done this. So I think that's what really got my gear into it, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy reading it. I think it's real. It's something that there's so much to learn about it, and there's new stuff coming around every day, and I think it's a responsibility. If you're going to take up a life as a historian, you got to dive in. You got to know what you're talking about. Well, I came back to school to teach history. I would like to teach high school history, so that is the first goal. I'm currently interning over at the archives, and I like that stuff. Like the archive work is cool because it's as close as you're going to get to time travel. When you hold a document from the 1600s or whatever it is, that jazzes me up. Kind of like how this with you guys, you know what I mean? Like recording and all that. I think digging into history, and there's so much to learn in it and following that. So definitely high school teachers, history, and then later in life something bigger. I think my dream job would be to work in the Natural History Museum. I think if that could be my office every day, that'd be cool. I'd enjoy that. And cool. This is, if you're a history person, this is the stuff that you kind of dig, because like all of our primary sources that's what history runs on. So yeah. This was John Kane to Susan Kane in 1755.
Whoa!
And that's
oh
the
my
original
God!
Yep. Wow. So having the ability to read cursive helps. But yeah, so this is all like taking history courses before. So like a primary source, that's gonna be anything you handwritten, I was there, I did it, I documented it type sort of thing. And then the secondary will be somebody saw it or heard about it, and then they wrote about it. Mm-hmm. So with all these things, like, cause like we had the class, like the enslaved at Liberty Hall. So it was like everyone that was the enslaved here on the property, you go to these primary sources and you have the documentation, because you have sales records, you have like, hey, this is happening here, it's all that. So what we do is you read through this thing, we translate it to a degree, you know what I mean? Like you translate it out and then you put it in a digitized system, then we send them out and it's all digitized. That sits in, because then you have like the digital commons that is on like Kane's webpage. Mm. So that's like...
So you guys are the ones that like...
Yep, yeah, and it's all...
That's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it's all like housed here. This used to be, I believe, in the library at some time. But then when they built this place 4 years ago, or what it was, now we house it all here. I got to see so many different cultures, and I always dove into them. I like learning about cultures. I like learning what different people do, and I think having that one thing that happened to me and being like, wait a minute, like this isn't, we're not in the Bronx anymore. So it's that would probably had the biggest effect, and that's why I think I like learning things like history and learning different things that different cultures do. I've always found it cool. I think everybody would like to, do, if you could do it all over again, I think anybody would, but I don't no regrets. You know what I mean? Like I don't wanna be like, oh, I wish I did this. I don't really have any of that. I'm fortunate. I know where I am. I'm happily married. My wife's my best friend. I'm doing well and always progressing. You know what I mean? I think setting a goal of being like, I want to be in the NBA, right? And then like that doesn't happen. Like, oh well, I failed. I don't think that's it. I think you always have to progress. Progress is growing, right? And progress is having success. So the progression, I think, is what I'm happiest about. Is like you're gonna keep going. I think if anybody kind of stops anywhere, you're just gonna go stagnant, right? You're not gonna keep growing. So I think, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at, and I think being happy in life is the biggest thing.